All right. Thank you. Come on back and sit down. I do want to say that Gail Durkin, who is one of our licensed practitioners and has been in charge of all sorts of stuff, including being the head of the Leadership Council, has not been here with us for a while due to transportation things, but she's here this morning. So I want to say welcome back, Gail. So happy you could be here. And also, a little bird told me that it's Barb Gallion's birthday tomorrow, so you might want to wish her a happy birthday during the coffee hour. Happy birthday, Barb. All right, so as you know, we have musicians that are far distant from us that send us their music for use on Sunday morning. So we're going to be singing You Are Welcome Here again this morning with Harold Payne, who is the one that wrote the song with Karen Drucker. So when Karen had us sing that last week, that was our little warm-up for this morning, where we get the other author of the song. And so please stand and prepare to sing now as we welcome Harold Payne. And the words will be on the screen, but you know them. Here we go.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be back with you here today, albeit virtually, and hope to one day be there in person at the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. I'm going to start today with a sing-along congregational here that you've probably heard because I wrote it with your very own Karen Drucker. You are welcome here. We are welcome here. I am welcome here.
All right.
You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I am welcome. I am welcome here. I am welcome here. I am welcome here. I am welcome. I am welcome here. I am welcome here. I am welcome here. Arms are wide open. There's room for everyone. Wherever you're going, wherever you're from, you are home. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. We are welcome. We are welcome here. We are welcome here. We are welcome here. We are welcome. We are welcome here. We are welcome here. We are welcome here. I am welcome. I am welcome here. I am welcome here. I am welcome here. I am welcome. I am welcome here. I am welcome here. I am welcome here. Whatever you've been through, you found it somehow. Wherever you are on your journey now, you are home. You are welcome here. One last time, you are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here.
I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and silence your cell phone now so there's no interruption during the morning celebration. And then we're going to move into our centering time and the opening prayer, with our prayer practitioner this morning, Marilyn Letzos. So this is the centering song. Go ahead and turn within now.
We are part of something greater, part of something greater than any one of us could ever be. We are part of something greater, something so much greater than any one of us could ever be. We are all joined together in our hearts, in our minds, and in our souls. We are part of something greater, part of something greater than any one of us could ever be. We are all joined together in our hearts, in our minds, and in our souls. We are part of something greater, something so much greater than any one of us could ever be.
There is a power greater than I am, and it loves everything into creation. Every second of eternity, it inhabits all of its creation, every atom. That God essence is present everywhere. And it is love that I can't even conceive of. Endless, unconditional love. And the power of good. Waiting, ready to act in our lives. It is infinite joy that needs no reason. Abundance, supply for everything, for all of its creation. And I am part of this power. This power resides within me. And when I go to that power, when I open to it, when I simply allow myself to stop and get quiet, this power makes itself known. It whispers in my ear its infallible guidance. It supplies my every need. It shines through the eyes of every person I meet, because that God essence is in everyone. It is the heartbeat of every being, of the universe itself. It is the life force itself. And so as I open to this power, I speak my word for every person within the sound of my voice to simply allow this love, this quiet, this peace, and this infinite possibility to make itself known as never before, that today is a new beginning, it is spring, it is the season of growing. It is divinely supported expansion into more love, into more well-being, into more joy, into that transcendent light that goes beyond, and is always present, always. And so I give thanks for that presence right here, right now. So brilliant in every pair of eyes, so palpable during this day, so comforting, so arresting in its truth that stops all doubt and replaces it with great expectations. And so I give thanks for this perfect power, this perfect presence, for its divine expression in so many ways this morning. And giving thanks, I know that something has changed as a result of this prayer, that it is already done. And so I let it go and let it be. And so it is.
And so it is.
Amen.
Oops. Thank you, Marilyn. I just want to take a moment to introduce Harold Payne to you in case you don't remember the last couple times that he was with us. He is a multi-platinum and Posey Award-winning songwriter, those Positive Music Awards, whose songs have been recorded by such artists as Rod Stewart, Patti LaBelle, and pretty much everybody from Peter, Paul, and Mary to Snoop Dogg. He's been performing at New Thought churches for 20 years, and the last time he was with us, because he was broadcasting live from his home, he did a song after my talk where he took all the elements of what I had talked about and made a song that was amazing. Well, he can't do that this morning because he hasn't heard the talk. So what we have the song for before and after are the ones that we chose for today. But this is Harold Payne.
This is the moment, right here and now, to lay down our burdens and come together somehow. It might not be easy to cross this divide, but Lord knows we've got to try. Let love be our witness as we stand in forgiveness. We all want to find common ground. We need each other. We need each other now more than ever before. We need each other. We need each other. May peace in our hearts be restored. I've had a vision deep in my soul where the rivers of compassion rise up and overflow and wash away the enmity with kindness and empathy. No one can do it alone. We need each other. We need each other now more than ever before. We need each other. Oh, we need each other. May peace in our hearts be restored. The world is not perfect, but the struggle is worth it, and our dreams can still somehow come true. We need each other. We need each other now more than ever before. We need each other. Oh, we need each other. May peace in our hearts be restored. We need each other now more than ever before.
So throughout this year, we're talking about living from the heart of wonder, which I think is immersed in the element of curiosity. recently had the awareness that we are such a tiny little speck, that Earth is such a tiny little speck in the size of the entire universe. You know, our solar system is kind of small, it's way out at the edge, it's kind of a tiny speck. Our planet is kind of a tiny speck. And then each one of us is made up of atoms and photons. So I look at this tiny speck in the universe and at the incredible complexity of everything that has evolved here on this planet, including us. And I think, how would it be possible to recognize the size and the scope of the universe and the detail put into this little grain of sand and each one of us tiny little microscopic grains of sand on it, if there were not an infinite presence to bring that forward? One piece of dust in the universe, and it's bursting with beauty and joy and creativity, and we are experiencing it as that divine presence reveling in its creation, so immaculate on this little tiny speck. Just imagine what's out there in the rest of the universe that we have no idea about yet. So this year, we're talking about living from the heart of wonder, and this month, and in the month of May, I'm talking about the connections, the parallels, and some of the contrasts, but connected between the world religious traditions and faiths and the science of mind. Because, as you may know, our founder, Ernest Holmes, who started Centers for Spiritual Living way back when, he studied all the world faiths with an interest to seeing where they were overlapping, where they were saying the same things. And those live in the mystical traditions of all the religions, the same messages. So this morning, we're talking about indigenous traditions all over the world. And the recognition that in indigenous traditions, one of the core elements is the importance of community. The community actually is of more importance than the individual. So, for example, when someone is chosen to be a shaman in the tribe, and they go through a rigorous, sometimes life-threatening initiation to remove the ego to some degree, that what they bring back in their awareness, in their vision, is in service of the community. That's the entire purpose of it. And so this morning, we're looking at the power of community, which we also chose as one of our core values here at Golden Gate. And just a bit about Native American sense of humor in the United States, because I've known a few Native American people, and they're very low-key when they throw out something that's funny. Usually you have to be paying attention to realize what just happened. So this woman was driving toward her home in northern Arizona when she saw an older Native American woman hitchhiking on the side of the road. And because the trip had been long and pretty quiet, she decided to stop and offer this woman a ride. And so during their small talk, this older woman glanced kind of surreptitiously at a brown bag that was sitting on the front seat between them. And the driver noticed that. And she said, "If you're wondering what's in the bag, it's a bottle of wine. I got it for my husband." And the older woman was silent for several minutes, and then she said softly, "Good trade." You know, indigenous traditions encompass every continent on the planet: North and South America, Australia and New Zealand, Europe and Asia. I think Antarctica may be the only place that we don't have we have penguins, but I don't think there are other people living that far south. So in every one of these continents, the indigenous traditions revolve around connection to community, to the earth and everything on it and in it, to the elements, to the directions. They're very oriented toward the presence in everything. So when we say in Science of Mind that God is all there is, we're actually tapping into that indigenous tradition that recognizes the sacred everywhere and treats the earth and all of its creatures and elements in that sacred awareness, in that tradition. So I'm speaking mostly this morning about Native Americans in North America, or South America a little bit, but North America, because that's what I'm most familiar with. But one of the things we see worldwide in the traditions is this connection to nature and connection to community. That gets carried on throughout all these indigenous traditions. And you may not be aware of this, but those of us that come from, parts of Eastern and Western Europe, we also come from an indigenous tradition in our own homelands, where we did the same things in the pre-Christian era. And next week I'm going to be talking about pagan traditions and goddess elements, but this morning, sticking strictly to the indigenous traditions, their process is in honoring everything as sacred, in learning through listening and observation, listening to everything, trees, the ocean, creatures, to engaging in conversation with them as brothers and sisters. They treasure ritual and ceremony because that provides the meaning of the linking between different stages of life and the remembrance of their various traditions. Most of their traditions are oral traditions. They don't have written scripture. It's in the stories they tell. And that's how they teach their children and one another, is through the stories. So you look at indigenous traditions in other parts of the world. In the Christian tradition, we have the parables that Jesus told. Of course, he was Jewish. That was part of that tradition, that he was telling those stories. But that comes into the Christian tradition and the Islamic tradition out of the roots of Judaism. And so in all of those traditions that came from the earth, they tell stories. There is a justice process that happens in North America. In British Columbia, where I lived for 4 years, there is what's called tribal court. If you are an Indigenous First Nations person, that's how you'd be referred to as First Nations in Canada. If you're a First Nations person who has committed a crime, you have the option to go to tribal court instead of into the regular court system up there. And there are only two requirements. One is that you are a First Nations person, and the second is that you admit your guilt. So if you committed a crime and you know you did it, and you're willing to take responsibility for that, you can go to the tribal court. Now, I found out about this because we had a woman in our congregation, we had a number of Métis people in our congregation in Vancouver, and one of them had embezzled money. And she became aware, she had been adopted as a child, so she didn't get to grow up connected to her Indigenous tradition, but she knew that she was Indian. She had been, verbally harassed as a child in various places as a result of that, and it had quite a horrendous upbringing. So I became aware of this because of Sheila, because one of the things that she was asked to do as a part of her work to mend what was broken between her and the community was to write her story and to share it with someone. And she chose to share it with me. So I read this long narrative of all these awful experiences that had happened in her life, and she was very forthright about things that she had done that were equally bad in her lifetime. And then she invited me to come to her final session in the court, where she was allowed to bring visitors. The judge was First Nations, and there was a council of women, First Nations women, who had been chosen to mentor her in the process of what she was doing to mend the sacred hoop, to come back together with community, to make reparation for what she had done. And so when I went to this closing ceremony, I was so moved by what happened there. I'd never seen anything like it, because she spoke, the women spoke about what she had done and what she had learned. The judge spoke about what Sheila had written and said to her, I hope you continue writing because I think you have a gift. And she was presented with from the tribal women, she was presented with this beautiful robe that she was wrapped in. And she got reconnected to her indigenous roots through this process with the tribal court. And I was introduced as one of her guests who had been important to her in her life. And I was so honored to be there and so amazed by the process. I thought, this is how court should be everywhere. So those tribal courts operate in the same values, that the community is so important that if a person comes out of alignment with their community, part of the reparation and healing process is to reconnect that, to reweave those broken threads, to mend that sacred hoop of the community. And I thought that was so beautifully evocative of the oneness that they teach and live from. Their art speaks about that. And their art is so interesting because, in many Native traditions, maybe all of them, there are not separate words for art and religion. They're the same thing. So their art is not only practical often, but it's also very beautiful. In Arab cultures, it's the calligraphy and the rugs because they're nomadic. They don't have anything to put up on walls in some of those places. In Native American traditions, you find weaving, you find beads, you find shells, you find jewels, you find feathers and fur. Everything that gets used that's a part of the earth or part of some other creature is thanked and honored as it is harvested, as it is used, and guidance is prayed for as it's put into practice. They use smoke. There are traditions all over the world that use bells or chimes or flags or prayer wheels. And they decorate the body as a sacred vessel for the spirit in various kinds of adornments. It's amazing. It's amazing to see. Matthew Fox said, "Lessons abound from the native peoples of the power of dancing together with the beat of a drum." Almost all the indigenous cultures do singing, dancing, drumming, providing a common heartbeat. The heartbeat reminds us of the heartbeat of what he calls the cosmic Christ, which would be the infinite oneness, God consciousness, which fills the universe with overflowing love, binding all things together on earth and in heaven. So this is Matthew Fox. This is what Black Elk said. He was from the Oglala Lakota tribe. He had a vision when he was 9 years old, and later in his autobiography he described it. He said, "I was standing on the highest mountain of them all, and round about beneath me was the whole hoop of the world. And while I stood there, I saw more than I can tell. And I understood more than I saw. For I was seeing in a sacred manner the shapes of all things in the spirit, and the shape of all shapes as they must live together like one being. And I saw that it was holy." Well, our founder, Ernest Holmes, had a cosmic consciousness experience during the dedication of the Whittier Church, just a year before he made his transition. He was speaking, just doing the talk that he'd prepared, when all of a sudden he stopped and his voice changed. You can hear it in the recording. His voice was lower and slower, and he said, and he was talking to the congregation about what they were going to accomplish, and he said, "I see it." And then there was a long pause. And then he said, "Oh God, the veil is thin between." There was another pause. He said, "We do mingle with the hosts of heaven." Another pause. And then he said, "And I shall speak no more." And he sat down. Later on, he talked about it with friends because he always liked to unpack and debrief everything afterwards with friends. But in that moment, they said when he turned to go back to his seat, he stumbled a little, and then he went and sat down. He had entered into a different state of awareness much like what Black Elk was describing of the connection, the wholeness. So in his writing, in The Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes talks about everything operating in circles. He says, everything in nature moves in circles. What goes out must come back. Love, and you will be loved. Extend joy, and you will become more joyful. Black Elk said this, everything an Indian does is in a circle, and that is because the power of the world always works in circles, and everything tries to be round. In the old days, when we were a strong and happy people, all our power came to us from the sacred hoop of the nation. And so long as the hoop was unbroken, the people flourished. So you can see there are connections in the awareness that these two men had. They didn't know each other as far as I know. Black Elk passed on in 1950 and Ernest Holmes in 1960. So what I wanted to show you this morning is some of the ideas that are held in the indigenous traditions worldwide that we also believe in, and also show you some of the ways that these people from the different continents express their prayer or their sacredness. So in Native American cultures, we see that creativity and beauty are savored, they're celebrated, and they're meaningful. They use color, a lot of color. They dance, they sing. The dancer on the right is from North America. The weaver on the left is from Peru. She's a native Quechua woman. Another one of the teachings is that nature is our teacher and every creature is a sibling. And we see this in the way that people use the elements of nature to meet their needs, and they use all of it, and also in the way that they paint their bodies for ritual, for ceremony, for remembrance of holidays, for sacrifices, for war, for celebrations. And so we have the Siberian woman and her baby and the furs that they use. We have the indigenous Aboriginal man from Australia who doesn't need the clothing because he doesn't live in that freezing cold place, but he paints his face and he uses the boomerang, which is one of the sacred pieces that's used in Australia, from what grows there and painted by the tribe. Also, the indigenous people believe that sensory input is celebrated and treated as holy. Sights, sounds, smells, tastes. There's the sounds that they use for music, for calls to prayer, for marking of sacred moments, the singing, the smoke that they use in various places. In South America, it's different kinds of smoke than the sage that's used here. In Europe, it's heather. And so whether it's a tea ceremony that's being done by this beautiful geisha woman who's wearing the white makeup that we see traditionally with geishas, or whether it is the New Zealand Maori man doing the haka, which is a war dance that is meant to scare the enemy, and this would scare me, I'll tell you. And his paint on his face is not white, it's black. We see in our North American native traditions, they might use colors in some of those. So all of the elements of touch, taste, smell, sound, visuals, all of those bits are recognized as sacred and used. And then there are adornments for the body. We see adornments that are scars, like this young woman has from her tribe in Africa. Sometimes it's stretching of the earlobes or the neck. Sometimes it is headdresses that are made of plants and shrubs and flowers and feathers. And all the elements that they use, all the beings, and everything on, in, above, and under the earth is sacred and of equal value. So when an animal is killed for food, every bit of it is used. Nothing is wasted because that being is sacred and it has allowed itself to be taken for that purpose. So it's treated with great honor. And it isn't the strongest and the fastest that they try and get. It's the weakest and the slowest that they take. Because by doing that, they strengthen the herd all the time. Rather than going for the biggest and using it as some kind of a trophy, thereby weakening the herd. Do you see? It's kind of like the way that Westerners spoke about the first time Mount Everest was climbed. The news talked about the conquering of Everest. And one of the Tibetan people said, we would speak of it differently. We would speak of the befriending of Everest. So there's the recognition that everything has an aliveness to it. And some of the Native Americans that I was looking up, Tom Dijkstra said, our spirituality is a oneness and an interconnectedness with all that lives and breathes, even with all that does not live or breathe. Black Elk said, and I say the sacred hoop of my people was one of the many hoops that made one circle, wide as the daylight and as starlight. And in the center grew one mighty flowering tree to shelter all the children of one mother and one father, meaning the earth as our mother and the Great Spirit, the infinite, as our father. Although not all indigenous traditions consider that great being as our father or as a male. Many consider it, like the earth-based cultures do, as divinely feminine. So there's that. In our own Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision, we say, we envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. A world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. So you can see how those threads are so similar that the emphasis is the same. Black Elk said, peace comes within the souls of men when they realize their oneness with the universe, when they realize it is really everywhere. It is within each one of us. And Luciano di Crescenzo, who was not Native American, but was an Italian writer and director and actor, this is one of my favorite quotes. He said, we're all of us angels with only one wing, and we can fly only by embracing one another. This is the message that I'm hearing universally spoken by those who have that sense of vision and that connection. So it doesn't begin with us, certainly. And Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision says, we envision all people, all beings, and all life as expressions of God. This is some of what we, in Science of Mind, have in common with the native traditions of the world. Now, this particular sacred hoop is the four directions of the North American, Native American tradition, the traditional four colors. Mostly they show up in this order. In some tribes, they show up in slightly different order. But the recognition that, as Chief Seattle said, all things share the same breath. The beast, the tree, the man, the air, shares its spirit with all life. It supports. And in Centers for Spiritual Living, we say we envision all people, all beings, and all life as expressions of God. There's a Salish teaching story that comes from Native Americans in the Pacific Northwest that David White was referring to in an interview he did a number of years ago with Terence McKenna. He said, this is a story the Salish elder teaches to a child who says, what do I do when I'm lost in the forest, or if I'm lost in the forest? And this is what the elder says: stand still. The trees ahead and the brushes beside you are not lost. wherever you are, it is called here. And you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and to be known. Listen, listen. The forest whispers, I have made this place all around you, and you may come back again, saying, here. No two trees are the same to Raven. No two branches are the same. When what a branch or a tree does is lost on you, then surely you are lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. So I think that for us, the important thing is for us to remember that wherever we are here now. And there's an important reason for us to be here now. It's not an accident. We are in the right place at the right time. So if we're not sure where we are or what it's for, it's time to stop and listen and allow what is trying to happen to reveal to us where we are in relationship to it. If we do that, we can discover that we're never alone and we're never really lost. The first time I actually physically met Dr. Lloyd Tupper, he was doing a seminar for ministers in Santa Barbara, and I had heard about him forever. He was famous. And I was the minister at the church in Santa Rosa, and we had not yet met each other. And I was going to come to this. I'd never been to Santa Barbara. I had a map. This was before GPS. I had a map. I got in my car to drive to this hotel in Santa Barbara. You know, the interesting thing was, I did not have the address of the hotel. I had the map. I mean, I'm sure it was available, but for some reason I didn't have it. I never doubted that I was going to get there. I got on the freeway. I went to Santa Barbara. I drove around for just a tiny little bit. There it was. I went in. And I think about that now. It's like, I cannot imagine that. As I've been telling Reverend Lloyd, I am, and he would say, deny that, it's not true. A little directionally challenged. So when I got into the car and I went to Santa Barbara and I got there realizing I didn't know where the hotel was, and I thought, for some reason, and this was not like me at the time, I thought, it'll be fine. And I drove, like around the corner or something, and there it was. How did I do that? I think it was the vibe coming off of Reverend Lloyd that just, drew me right there like a homing beacon. And so when we tune in with faith, we discover that we're not alone and we can find our way, and what we need will find its way to us. So I'd like to take this now into prayer, in the recognition of the sacredness of community and how well it lifts and supports us. So taking a breath, I know right now that there is only one life. It is infinite, everywhere, present. It is the life of God, and that is my life now. That is our life now. There is nothing outside of that life. There is nowhere to go. There is no lost. There is only the presence, the oneness, right here, right now, wherever we are in our awareness. And as we are aware, then we are joined with all of our community in earth, in the water, in the sky, in the very buildings themselves, in the rocks and trees, in the people, in the community we know, and the vast community we are part of that we may not even be aware of. So I call forth from this God-realized center of community a deeper awareness for each one of us, an intense awareness and consciousness of our value and the value of community, and the safety and love with which we are held and enfolded every moment of our lives, no matter what it may look like in that moment. And so knowing this, we claim this goodness for ourselves in this room. We claim it for our beloveds in Ukraine. We claim it for all the people and places in the world where there is separation and conflict. We claim it with love, and we know that it is the truth of who we are. It is the deep, essential spiritual truth of every one of us. So with gratitude for this reminder, for the power of the claiming of community now, and its depth of support, we give great thanks, and we let this word go into the creative law of mind and spirit, which always says yes. We let it go, and here's the trick. We let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Yes, thank you. I'd like to invite you to stand now and join me in the affirmation for the day. And this comes out of the Native American tradition and also our own, as it is adjusted here to recognize that we all have blessings to bring forth to the community ourselves. And as long as we're breathing, we have value for our community. So we claim this together. It is my honor to bring my gifts to the community so that all may be blessed by them. I'm grateful to partake of the many gifts others bring, accepting their blessings too. Thank you. You may be seated. So our time of sacred offering is now. I'm going to invite the ushers to come forward to prepare for the offering. And we do bless the offering that we're receiving now, and also everything that's been received in all forms throughout the week. So if you're giving your offering this morning, we invite you to hold it near your heart, or if you're giving with a loved one, to hold it in your hands together. If you would like to text your offering this morning, the phone number is up on the screen. You can feel free to do that. Just put in the amount that you want to give. But we are going to go ahead now and speak our blessing out loud for all of the gifts that we have given and received personally and at Golden Gate this week by saying this. Join me. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is. Go ahead.
We're all in this together, walking in each other's shoes. We gather here for spirit's sake, to make sure our hearts and minds and souls are wide awake. We listen to the message as our auras all get tweaked. Let the music and inspiration lift us through the week. And we're all in this together, joined by the positive energy. Yes, we're all in this together, walking in each other's shoes, bonded by our common views. We all have gifts we want to share. We root for one another through triumph and despair, knowing we have our partners who give us their support and help us guide our ships as each one's pulling into port. 'Cause we're all in this together, joined by the positive energy. Yes, we're all in this together, walking in each other's shoes, bonded by our common view. Your light is so bright, there's enough to give away. Reach out and touch somebody, brighten up their day. Can't help but come around and touch you the same way. 'Cause we're all in this together, joined by the positive energy. Yes, we're all in this together,
So on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, we do, all of us, accept and bless this offering. And we do intentionally send it out into the world to mend those broken places, to create more sense of community with one another. So we send this offering with that intention. And so it is. Thank you, Brandon. All right. Now, if you happen to be with us for the very first time this morning, we're just delighted that you're here. And we do have on the back table, usually, might not this morning because we have a special event, as you know, after the service. We have welcome packets for all of you who are here for the first time with a blue card that says welcome on it. If you fill this out and turn it in, we give you a little book of affirmations as our gift to you. It'll fit in a pocket or a purse. You can take it with you everywhere. And when you have one of those days, you can pull it out and use it to help you recenter. If you do not get one of those this morning and you do not get a welcome packet, you are required to come back so that you get one, you know. And so we will, I do take attendance. I'll be looking for you. That's going to be important. I want to especially thank everybody that was here to set up this morning. We have this beautiful, beautiful altar this morning, and this is in honor of Ronald H. Ruda, whose pictures are all around the room this morning, and you can see all the many incarnations of this man, this amazing man. Some of them are hilarious, and you're going to hear more about that when we do our celebration for him immediately after the service. We'll have lunch, we'll have the celebration, we'll talk a little more about Ron. There'll be music, there'll be video. It'll be a wonderful thing. But some of them have been here this morning to help us get set up. And so we want to just acknowledge everyone, and especially our beautiful Ron, who's in the heart up here at the top. So as you know, immediately following the service, we're going to have this celebration for Ron. And do you want to say something about that, Lloyd?
Well, be here now.
We're going to participate in this together in just a little while. And so please stay, have lunch. We're going to set up the tables. We're going to need some help in here moving chairs around so we can move those tables up. The caterers have got things going, and we'll be ready in just a few minutes. Want to remind you, this is the last day to register for writing as a spiritual practice. And this is going to be a fun class that's offered by Suzanne Dubois. Some of it will be on Zoom, and some of it will be in the Troward Room at our Learning Center. But you can be on Zoom all the time if you need to be. So you can register from our website. Go to ggcsl.org. Look for the classes tab and click on that, and you'll get a little drop-down menu that says something about registration. Go there and you can register for this class. And you can also look it up on the calendar and find out more about this class as well. Ellen Nicosia told me this morning she has 2 extra slots available for somebody that would like to participate with the food bank work that we do once a month. It's coming up on May 10th, and her complement of volunteers is full except for 2. She has 2 spaces left. So if you would like to participate in that on May 10th, contact Ellen via text or leave her a voicemail message or send her an email. Give her your contact info and let her know if you want to be on for May or June or both, and she'll get back and give you all the details. Also, our climate action tip of the week, go to Marin Climate Challenge at this web address. There are 6 different ways that they're giving suggestions to help people address climate change simply in their own lives. So you can go and find out all kinds of great information about that. So we suggest that you do that and make that a priority. All right, now we're going to move into our prayer time. May I have the prayer box? And I'm going to invite the practitioners to surround the room. When you see these people in their white stoles, these are our licensed prayer practitioners. They have spent extensive time training to do prayer work specifically so that they know what to pray for, really, because sometimes when we ask for prayer, we're not quite clear. They know how to talk to us to get more clear and how to do the prayer work for us. And when we're too worried to treat for ourselves, they do the treatment for us. So they are surrounding us this morning so they can join me as we pray us out. And so we'll wrap up in just a minute here. So please turn within once again as we recognize and know together there is one life. That life is whole, complete, and perfect. That life is God's life and our life now. And it lives in every atom of our being, in every photon of our universe. It is fully present, fully conscious, fully aware. It knows us deeply. We are its manifestation. That divine presence loves us more than we even dare hope to or imagine. The greatest love we could experience, and this presence within, is deeply wise. So what we need to know is available to us as we turn to it. We allow this to guide us throughout the week this week with love and faith and joy. And we claim it for our dear ones as well, anywhere in the world, knowing that what is true of us is also true of them. So with gratitude, we let this prayer go and let it be. And together we say, and so it is. And remember, you will get a prayer after the service if you come to one of the practitioners at the table. They will do a prayer with you, or you can put a request in the box, and that will be prayed over for the full week along with you. Now please stand and join me for the benediction and the closing song. And right after the closing song, we're going to invite you to move your chairs a little bit over so we can get the tables up here, and then help put the chairs around the tables, and then go get your food, because we're going to launch a wonderful hour immediately after this. So here's our benediction. Let's say this together. I now walk, so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness, for spirit and all people and I are one eternally, and so it is. This closing song is called Something Wonderful, and you'll see the words on the screen. We might need to crank it up.
Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go. Something wonderful, oh, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful, hey, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Yes, it is. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. And all this love inside, we can let it shine. Oh, something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Oh, something wonderful, something wonderful
happening to me right here, right now.